Yeah, then something on the theoretical framework. So we are mostly speaking here of the greenhouse gas protocol, also known as the GHG protocol. This is a protocol or a calculation framework or accounting framework, actually, that is reported or delivered by the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. And it is currently globally the most adopted carbon accounting framework, and it supports your process in carbon accounting, in calculating and assessing, data analysis, and of course in reporting as well. So basically, when we compare it to financial accounting, the greenhouse gas protocol is like the IFRS standards are for financial accounting. The GHG protocol is for carbon accounting. Finally, one very important thing to keep in mind is, like financial accounting, your carbon footprint is dynamic, and this means that it varies over the years, it varies over the period, varies per month even, and due to the amount of activities or seasonal changes, the amount of production or the amount of people that are in the office are all affecting your carbon footprint. You must keep in mind that this footprint therefore also changes over the period. So back to the greenhouse gas protocol, and a very common topic when we're speaking of a carbon footprint is the scopes, the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. These are simply put, these are predetermined categorizations of emission sources in your company or in your organization's value chain or supply chain. And these are, as said, predetermined by the greenhouse gas protocol. When you look at the bottom, you see this bar, horizontal bar. In the middle, there's a green bit stating the reporting company. And on top, there is a green arrow to the sky with scope 1 direct emissions. So when we're speaking of scope 1 direct emissions, these are direct emissions of greenhouse gases from your company's assets. So we are categorizing those in two. Company facilities is the one. So for example, you're having an office building, you're there with your team. It's getting cold outside, you want to put on the heater, you have natural gas flowing into your office building, it's going into the boiler, and it heats the water. You are warm and your team as well, and on the roof of your building there is a little exhaust pipe where the greenhouse gas is emitted. Same goes for company vehicles. You have an exhaust pipe on your vehicle, you're putting in diesel or gasoline, the car drives, or you're driving the car, and GHG emissions are flowing out of the exhaust pipe. When we are looking to our left, at the bar in the bottom, the horizontal bar, you can see upstream activities. And when you're looking at the most left arrow, the shaded one, with scope 2 indirect sources, there is only one source there, and it states purchased electricity, steam, heating and cooling for own use. So these are sources that are direct energy consumption. However, the emission of greenhouse gas is at another location. So electricity being the most common, you have a desktop or a monitor, you are putting the plug in the socket in the wall, directly consuming the electricity. However, the greenhouse gas emissions that are being emitted during the production of that electricity are occurring at another site, namely the natural gas power plant, for example. Finally, we have both upstream activities and downstream activities, scope 3, indirect use of energy, and also indirect emissions. And this is basically everything in the supply chain or value chain of your organization. Just to name some examples, we have purchase goods and services. When we're at the left blue arrow all the way on the left, you see purchase goods and services. So everything that your company is procuring, from food in the canteen to the materials that you use in production are under that emission category, and are, for many organizations, especially when we're speaking of manufacturers or producers, that is a very large emission source. When we're moving a few categories to the right, almost on the right side of that same arrow, we can see employee commuting or business travel. So for many service organizations, for example, service providers, these two are very important categories because relatively they contribute a lot to the carbon footprint. Another example from the right side, downstream activities. Again, when we're producing, especially when we're producing electronic equipment, so anything with a plug or a battery, you can see the category use of sold products. Well, there's the energy consumption of the products during the full life cycle are to be reported under that category. Also, as you can imagine, probably, and this determines, it's basically a rule of thumb for about 90% of the organizations, scope 1 and scope 2 are just a tip of the iceberg. Only when we're looking at really energy intensive companies or organizations, so name for example a steel manufacturer in the west of the Netherlands. These are organizations that are very energy intensive, and therefore scope 1 and 2 are actually quite large. However, as mentioned, as a rule of thumb for almost all organizations, scope 3 is by far the largest, up to 80-90% of the total carbon footprint.